Assalamualaikum and welcome everyone, honorable guests and all students. I am Arisha Azli.
And I am Nurul Nadira.
And we will be your host for tonight's program. Before we begin our event, I have a housekeeping announcement to make. First of all, please mute your mic during the talk, and if it's possible, please turn on your camera. Next, please use the chat box for questions in order to avoid interruption. And lastly, please avoid asking sensitive questions. Praise to Allah, we have been graced by the chance to gather in this momentous ceremony. Greetings to Lilian Lee. So, hi Lilian.
Hi,
Hi, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. It's currently 7:30 a.m. here, so it's very cold outside.
So, really early in the morning.
Yeah, but happy to be here with you guys.
Okay, so everyone, this is Lilian Lee. She is the author of the MPH best-selling House of Koi. And then next, we'll be moving on to Adelia Khalid. Hi, Adelia.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you doing? You feeling okay today?
Alhamdulillah, doing great. How about you?
I'm great, like super great.
Awesome.
How have you taken your dinner?
Not yet. Possibly a celebratory dinner after this.
Okay. So everyone, this is Adelia Khalid. She is also the first MPH bestselling author of All Minds Are Broken. And then we'll be moving on to Amanda. So, hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Hi, how are you feeling today?
Good, thank you.
Okay, so everyone, this is Amanda, and she's director of It's Easier to Raise Cattle and the first Malaysian female director selected for the Venice International Film Festivals. So, brothers and sisters, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Food for Thought with local artists and filmmaker talk session. This event is an interactive talk session conducted by Secretariat of English Linguistic and Literature (ELITS) in order for the students who join this session to gain more knowledge and be inspired by the achievement of all three of our amazing speakers for today. So stay tuned to be impressed by their spectacular experience of their career. But first of all, I would like to ask every speakers and audiences for tonight's event to register and scan the QR code for Woo Clap on the slides that will be presented. Yep, this one. So as it will be useful for our talk later. So I give you guys like 2 to 3 minutes to scan so that you can participate. Okay, so I hope everyone have scanned and registered to the Woo Clap. So therefore, without wasting the time, I ask you to give your full attention to both of our artists for tonight. And I welcome Lynn Lee and Adelia Khalid. The stage is yours.
I guess we'll go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. Assalamualaikum and hi there. Yeah, the slides are up. I was waiting for that actually. Hi. So today we are the two authors that are going to be talking about writing and publishing, especially as local Malaysian authors. So the biggest part of what we're going to be talking about today is going to be talking on how you can enter the industry and how you can start your writing journey. Especially since you're all aspiring authors, this is the pathway that you can take. Although there are a lot of pathways into the publishing industry, these are only the two point of views and several other point of views from our friends that we can lend to you if you are going to start your own writing and publishing journey. So let's go on to the next slide. Let's see what we have today. Okay, welcome to the best night of your life. This is debatable, but we will have fun tonight because, as said by our lovely Arisha just now, today we are going to have a super chill, interactive session rather than like us teaching you one by one, like you have to do this, you have to do this. We want it to be fun, so you can turn on your mic whenever you want. Just go ahead and turn on your mic and say, can I ask a question? Or maybe you have something to suggest or say. Feel free to do that. We're super chill, we don't bite, and super, super excited to be here today. Okay, on to the next slide. Lillian!
Yay! Okay, so I guess we can do a little bit of introduction. My name is Lillian. I'm actually currently in New York City. That's why it's the whole time zone thing. It's very confusing. Let's see. Well, I guess we can talk a bit about I guess, my journey, and then we can talk about the books and how to enter the industry. So I was an international student at Boston, and that was when a college publishing program reached out to my school. And I think that's something I really want maybe to see one day in Malaysia, because it's so helpful, and it's really like a mentorship program that kind of introduces you to the publishing industry. So this program reached out to my school for seniors, where I was a sophomore, like second year. And you pitch a book. And at first, I pitched something like a Malaysian international school research, like how that affects us and how people study abroad and things like that. And then I realized that I want my first book. Like, why would my first book be nonfiction when I love fiction? So I pitched another book. I said, I want something YA. I want something I've never read before, something I always wanted to read as as a teenager. And so I wrote like a love letter to myself. It's just House of Koi. And that's where this all began. I mean, they taught me how to do like marketing and work with like cover designers, editors, marketing editors. It's all very fun. So I'm excited to talk more about it in the next slides. I think Adelia's turn.
Okay, so you probably heard my voice just now. So let's hear who I am actually. So I'm Adelia Khalid, but for the most part, people usually just call me Yaya. So you can go ahead and call me Yaya. It's super chill. So I'm the author of All Minds Are Broken, and my road to publishing may be a bit unconventional because I'm actually younger than a lot of the spectators here today. So that's actually because I published my book right after SPM. So around 17, 18. This is because I actually was not expecting to publish a book anytime soon because I wrote my first book for fun, just writing on my laptop, just going like blah 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 blah. I want to put this into words, and then it just turned into a book, and I started kind of giving it to my friends and family, asking what they thought, and they gave suggestions, and they were like, "Oh my god, I love this part," and a supportive system kind of gave me the inkling of going like, oh, maybe I can get this published. So I started sending my manuscript to a bunch of publishers, and surprise, surprise, I got rejected by a lot of them because the local publishing industry is very competitive in a way that certain publishers are looking for a certain type of manuscript, and for the most part, English books typically don't get published by most of the publishers, and they have a very strict ruling or requirement, especially when it comes to certain genres or languages that are not necessarily the most commercial. So in Malaysia, for example, some of the more popular genres would be Malay romance or Malay crime, those kind of fictional works. So when you have a work like sort of way, I wrote a young adult science fiction novel, which is 1000% not something you usually see on Malaysian bookshelves. So it took a lot of work and it took a lot of patience, but alhamdulillah, we're here today. And so I really want to see more genres and more interesting titles on bookshelves. So that's why I'm here today to tell you how you can do that for yourself. Yeah. So next slide, let's see what else. Yeah, so these are the books that were mentioned just now. So Lillian Lee's House of Koi. Do you want to say anything about your book, baby, Lillian?
Okay. I guess it's a little synopsis. So it's about a girl named Mila. She grew up in an American international school in Penang, and one day she had to move to live with her grandma because her parents are going away, and so she goes back to Bukit Matajam. And she can't speak Malay as well as she could. She can't speak Mandarin as well as she could before, and so it's really just like learning to love herself again, learning to be her grandmother, and meeting all these people that will become important to her along the way in school, and especially a romance. So there's that.
Amazing. And so I read House of Koi, and I can tell you it is one of the most heartwarming, beautiful stories you will ever read. And we're all Malaysians here, right? And we can relate to that kind of feeling of loving our culture, loving the things that we, see very familiar. And I love it. Go get it. So now we're going on to my book, baby. All Minds Are Broken, which my readers usually just call it Amak because the title is very long. So All Minds Are Broken is a young adult science fiction novel that talks about 5 characters. We follow them throughout the story where they go to sleep and meet each other in their dreams. These 5 people from different countries with different lives, different cultures, different beliefs, having to meet each other in their dreams and solve problems that they face in their daily lives in more fantastical and weird, scary ways. And throughout this, we find out that it's not exactly all that it seems, because all this is a plan that was conducted by an evil scientist. And you can learn more about the story by getting a copy for yourselves.
Which I'm still waiting for. I'm still waiting for that ebook because I can't. You gotta ship it international. Make it
Soon.
international. Okay, writing a book. Where do we start, Adelia? How?
There are so many things when it comes
Yeah.
to writing a book. Like, you can't publish a book if you don't have anything to publish. So you need to write a book. And one of the major things about writing a book is how you go about it. And there's this thing in the writing community called planners and pantsers. So for me, I'm more of a pantser, but sometimes I get a little bit too in my head that I need to plan before I start writing. All about pantsers are that they kind of have like, oh, I'm going to write about this. So I'm going to write about it. It's like when inspiration hits, you just go and write what you want to write. Well, planners are like, oh, in this plot, in section A, I have to make sure that character A does this to character B because the climax, blah, blah, blah. So it really is up to you and what you're most comfortable with. What about you, Lillian?
Definitely a pantser as well. I heard some advice from an author before where she planned the beginning and planned the ending, which you kind of should have an idea about, but the middle you kind of leave it up to the characters and leave it up to what feels right and just the natural flow of things. So that's definitely what I think, like the pantser in between.
Very true. And I do think that for pantsers, a lot of, emotion goes into writing, and you just, whatever your heart and your gut feels, you just put it onto paper. And I think for the most part, a lot of writers are like that. But of course, like me, actually, it's weird because in the middle of my book, I kind of didn't know where to go. Like I said, was like all in my head. So I needed some kind of plan. So I wrote in let's say chapter 25, this has to happen. But I didn't go into specifics, just putting them out on like a manila card with bullet points so I could visualize what I was going to do. Yeah. But for the most part, I think writing a book and coming up with ideas is probably the tiniest problem, because for writers, that's what they want to do and that's what they like doing. What most writers have a problem with is being consistent, I think. Like, I'm writing my second draft for the book that I'm writing right now. And it's fun, but then you have to revise and edit a book. And that's where a lot of the phases of writing a book comes in. You think that writing a book is just going on your laptop and smashing words together. But then after that, you have to recheck what you write. You have to look up researchers. And later on in the publishing section of our talk today, we're going to talk more about editors. But right now in writing a book, you have to make sure that your manuscript is the best that you can make it at that time.
I'm just remembered I had this notebook, and I remember writing down. So a book usually has like 3 acts. In House of Koi, like I was just like just write. But now I'm like getting more serious and just kind of figuring out like, hey, how does it work? So Act 1, which is 25% of your book, which is the exposition. So it's kind of the introduction, the world building, like just giving some background on your character. And then Act 2, which is the 50% of your book, is when the first inciting incident happened. So like the first kind of plot point, the first exciting event that will like change the course of the book or sets the course for the book. And so that's the rising action. And then last act 3, which is the last or less than 25% of a book, because act 2 should take, you know, the majority, maybe 50 to 75%. So the act 3 is the pre-climax before you go into the climax, and then the conclusion. So yeah, you gotta wrap everything up in act 3 or give a little plot twist and maybe even a cliffhanger. Yeah, that's my notes.
Yeah, that's really good to have, so that you kind of know when to like put in the inciting incident, put in something so that the pace and the momentum of the story doesn't get lost for the readers. Just for clarification, okay, let's give like an example, like Hunger Games. For example, you have all of this introduction is when they show kind of Katniss's life in District 12. And then the exciting incident, the one event that causes the story to go forward, is when she gets chosen as one of the contestants, right? And that is the thing that keeps the story going. So you need that to make readers go, oh, I need to read more. Because that's the whole point of writing a book or maybe directing a film, is that you want to keep your audience, your readers, entertained and reading more and buying more books. So that's the whole point of it.
I mean, also when you're writing a book, right, you don't really set out, be like, I'm gonna publish this, I'm gonna become famous. Just at first write this book because you know you want to write this book for yourself. You know, like, you know, Adelia and I, we didn't start out like we're gonna sell this at MPH, we're gonna, you know, do great. Like, we just wrote this because we love writing, and we had a story in our head that we wanted to see through, and we did. And that's the hard part of writing. You have to just, like I think Adelia said, like, be consistent. So I think the process of writing a book is just have like an idea, like just at first start with an idea, and then, you know, decide, are you a plotter or a pantser, and then as you go through you start to reveal more of the story that you want to write, and you just keep writing and writing. And then when you have your first draft and you go, wow, I did this amazing thing, like just try to reach out to friends, or, you know, try to find a mentor or someone who loves to read and have their opinion, if, you know, you're ready to share. And then once you do that, you keep on working on it until you're proud of it, and then we can go into the how to get published side in the other slides. But anything else to add about this slide, Delia? No?
Okay, so that was writing a book.
Okay.
Let's go on to, is it the hardest part? I'm not sure. I think all the parts are hard, but getting published is it's a different level of frustration, I would say, at least my journey specifically, because it took a long while. I finished writing my book at it was like a side project after PT3, you know, like after PT3 you have that time and you're like, oh, what am I doing? So I wrote that book in that time span for fun. And I finished it just before SPM. And it took a whole year until I could find a publisher who liked it. And there's this thing in the local publishing industry, I would say, where some publishers are looking for something different and they have different qualifications. And sometimes it's not about your book. And actually, most times it's not about your book, because there are certain publishers who need you to have a certain number of followers on Instagram or a certain platform, or you're already famous in some capacity. That's something that I can say about the local book industry, because there were some these qualifications to even consider getting published, which is hard for people who just want to become authors and nothing else because they just like writing, which is a bit unfortunate. But I do see a lot of hope and a lot of things that are changing today, because a lot of people are getting publishing deals in Malaysia even when they haven't made a name for themselves and are making names for themselves through publishing a book. So there is something good there, and something good that you guys can look forward to. So when it comes to publishing, for me, because I use traditional publishing is you reaching out to a publisher and saying, "Hey, do you like this? Can you get it published, please?" So this is what you do. For me, I used our lovely friend Gmail. So this thing called query letters. Query letters are when you write kind of like a letter to the publishing company saying, "Hi, this is me. This is my book. Blah 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 blah." And you can get some examples of query letters online and this kind of format that you can follow. But for the most part, it's that. It's you introducing yourself, introducing your book, and telling them why they are the best publishers for your book to publish and market your book.
Yeah, I can talk a bit about. So mine is not traditional. Mine is called hybrid. So it's technically self-publishing, but I had the full help of a publishing like house. Um, so they get, it was nice to have someone like on my back, like keep writing, because it was like you have to follow this timeline that we're gonna publish by the end of the year. So I believe I was accepted into that program in like January. Had a lot of like talk to the head of the publisher, like, okay, I'm gonna like this is my book, and then when they liked it, they matched me up with an editor, and then she required me to write a chapter like every week, and then during that week she'll edit the old chapters, and so like 1 week edit, 1 week write, and just back and forth, and it was very helpful. And then so like there's like a nice phase. So phase one's writing, then phase two we start like trying to do the preparing for the pre-order launch. And at first, I didn't even have my Instagram when I was doing pre-order, which would have been so helpful, like to market myself more. But I didn't. Why? I don't know why I didn't do that. So pre-order, and then for me, it was pre-order is kind of like a sure way, like a way for your publisher to know that you have an audience, a way that they know, like, okay, people out there want to read your book, so like we can still work with you because you have some interest. Thank you to my family for buying a lot of books. So once you reach that goal of the pre-order campaign, and then the publisher's like, okay, we're good to go, we can start printing your books, and they print the books, and then they send it to me so that I can sign it, and then disperse it out to family and friends, and then we publish it. We have an ebook or like the manuscript already, and you upload it to Amazon. Now this is something like anyone can do. So you just like learn how to organize a book into like InDesign or Word, and then you upload it to Amazon, and Amazon will do everything else. So Amazon, like, automatically your book will be like, for example, my book, it's like randomly in Walmart or Target because Amazon just pushes it out there. Yeah, you never know. And like Amazon's also, global, anyone can look at it. So I think in that way self-publishing is nice because all you do is upload and wait, that's it. And then you get the royalties from different parts of the world or from ebooks, and you can kind of see where it goes. They'll tell you like, oh, you got it from Europe, or you got this much from someone reading the Kindle, things like that. So self-publishing is a way if you maybe not ready to work with a big house, publisher, if you're still like attempting, you still wanted to enter the publishing industry. I'm not sure. Okay, so to talk about the Malaysian side, should you go to the next slide, please? So, isn't it? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So I can kind of continue. So I was in school. I was at university in Boston, and I came home for holiday, or pandemic hit, and so I went back home, and I started to feel like, okay, I should bring my book over to Malaysia. Like Malaysia is my home. It's where I know readers will really relate, and so I at first I emailed Kinokuniya, on a whim, just like, hello, I have this book published. How do we make this work? And then they sent me a contact in um, MPH distributors. And then I reached out to that contact and they said, okay, mail us your book and we'll see if you like it. They read it. They said, okay, we can start with like 5 copies. And so I worked with a local printer in Penang, which is where I'm from, in Penang, and they printed 5 books for me. We like went back and forth with the coloring because the coloring was a bit off. The pages, the feel of the book, and then I sent it over to them, and the first 5 books, I believe, no, maybe like 2 books appeared in Kinokuniya, and then like 1 in like some MPH store and 1 in some other MPH store. So it was very small because they just want to test the waters, and then it was sold, and then they're like, okay, we want another 10, and then you send 10, and then they're like, okay, we want 200, and you're like, what? Oh my goodness! So you start working, you start keep on printing, you start Instagram. Start Instagram, people. I wish I can go back to myself and say, please start Instagram early, because I only started Instagram like last year. Like when the pandemic was almost like last October. So I've come a long way since then. Instagram, I think, is where you can find like you don't realize, like at first I didn't realize, it's because it's a rising trend now, right? Like last year Bookstagram was still very like close knit, and then now Book Talk is like everywhere, and a lot more people are joining Instagram, which is very fun. So yeah, we should all be friends on Instagram. Really. Okay.
Yes. Oh
Thank
my
you, Lilia.
God. Lillian's Instagram is so aesthetic, and you guys can like see the insides and outsides of Bookstagram and so book social media. Basically, it's very interesting because a bunch of people on in that community, the whole gist of it is people discussing about what they love, discussing about books, discussing about reading and writing. And it's a place where you can find like minded people and be like, hey, you're just like me. You like the things that I like. And that's just an amazing feeling of having that community around you, especially when you're doing something as arduous and needs a lot of patience like writing. You need someone who's like, hey, you can do this, we've done it before, we can do it again, something like that. And especially when writing your first book, it's such a specific experience of starting something new and being like, I don't know anything. So if you want to reach out to anyone, a writer, a Malaysian writer, or even us, for example, feel free to do so. You can contact us on any of our social medias, and inshallah, we'll be more than happy to help you. Marketing. Half of publishing and half, maybe I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more. Half of publishing and half of writing and getting your book out there on bookshelves is marketing, is using social media, using different platforms, and telling people, hey, I have a book, go read it, go buy it. And like Lillian, I also didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't know that I was, having the power to use social media using it to showcase my art, because I like to sketch sometimes and just post it on Instagram. And then I was like, okay, I have a book, so I have to do something. So because I dabble in animation for fun, I animated this trailer for my book and posted it online, posted it on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, some other places. And you know what? It got a lot of shares and likes. And just the next day, there were so many sales and buyers, which really shows you how powerful social media is, and just word of mouth, just having people talk about your book. And sooner or later, because of all this promotion leading up to it that I did out of a whim, because I was like, you know what, I'm just going to tell people about it on my Instagram. It caused it to rise in the bestseller list and become one of the top sellers in Malaysia. But it's because of that word of mouth. It's because people are, talking about it and sharing it and having other people talk about it. So exactly what Lillian said just now. And then after it hit number one, I then posted like a TikTok of me just going, hey, I published a book. Again, just saying that you published a book and letting people know. It was super short. And right after that, it hit the bestseller list again because that specific TikTok got around 30K views or something like that. And that shows you how much marketing helps. It's not just about writing a book. There's so much work after writing the book that also goes into how many sales and how many people even know that the book exists. So yeah.
Yeah, please follow Adelia. She's like the TikTok queen. We are the presence of royalty. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Follow
So
Lillian.
someone asked, do you ever experience writer's block? And if you have experienced it, how do you overcome it? I mean, yeah, writer's block never leaves. I mean, it's really just kind of learning to kind of accept it and how to deal with it. Like learning your own kind of like coping mechanism. Like how, like, learning how to be okay with it and how do you get out of it, which is important. Like don't just like, oh no, I have writer's block and then not do anything about it, because then you'll be stuck, forever. So I mean, how do you overcome writer's block, Delia?
Yeah. True. I agree with you totally. Like you can't just sit in front of your laptop and expect the writer block to be like go away and just disappear
Mm-hmm.
on its own. So something that the one answer that I always give people, and I said to so many people before, the only way you can get over writer's block is to not write. Which is, it sounds weird when you hear me say it, like I want to write, why don't I write? It's because you're not in the right mindset to write. You get to write when you feel inspired or you feel like, okay, I have something to write. When you have writer's block, it means you're either sad or you're hungry or you're just sleepy, maybe you're tired from assignments and you cannot write. So don't. Go and experience life. Go listen to music. Go read a book. Go have fun. Go to the movies maybe. And maybe that movie is going to like spark something in your head and be like, oh, I know exactly what to write next. And that's the kind of thing that allows you to write and have fun and not stress over the thing that you write. Because you want your writing to not feel like a task. Even though it is a job, you want it to feel like something you do for fun, because that's the reason why people want to be writers anyway, because you love writing and you have a story that you want to give to the world. Yeah. And actually,
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
yeah. No, go ahead.
Are you first?
Oh, actually, I have to admit, I just had a writer's block a few days ago, and I did exactly that, and it worked. And yeah, that's about it. Go ahead, Lynn.
I mean, so I've been reading a lot of like self-help books lately, and because I have been a bit of like in the right. I don't even know if it's considered writer's block anymore, but it's just like those like week longs or like a month long where you just feel stuck and don't feel like doing anything really or anything creative or productive. So I've been kind of feeling like that recently, and a lot of self-help books, like one of them in particular, atomic habits, just really showed me that sometimes you can't wait for inspiration to strike, which is what I'm doing. Like I'm just like I'm waiting for like that moment, like wow, I feel so powerful, okay, I can write. Because sometimes it's really just making it a habit to write so that writer's block doesn't get you. Like just creating a routine is important. Like know your routine, tell yourself, okay, at let's say if you're only free at night, to be like, okay, 8 p.m. I'm gonna write. I'm gonna take away all my distractions. I'm gonna write for half an hour, and then you just let it flow and see what, like don't make it perfect. Don't think my first draft needs to be absolutely perfect. Just go with what it feels. And honestly, when you read it like the next day and you look back, you'll be surprised. You'll be like, okay, that was this line's not bad, or okay, I can kind of see like a plot. I can kind of see where I'm going now. So don't just like wait for perfection. Don't wait for perfection to strike, and don't keep relying on inspiration, because sometimes it's really your own determination and being consistent. Oh, I have a new question. I'm always insecure in my writing style. How do you get over it?
Oh,
Why
that relates to what you were saying
insecure?
just
What?
That relates to what you were saying just now. That's cool.
Mm.
Yeah. Why are you insecure? Don't be insecure over your writing
Yeah.
style.
No.
I do like to think of it like this though. Like when you were a kid and you just like started a new project and you were like, oh, I wanna take some paper and chonting, or maybe you just wanna like go out and play in the mud for no reason, and then you make like a mud snowman or something like that. You don't really care if it's good. Like you don't care if it's perfect or beautiful, or like, somebody wants to put it in the museum or something, or it hits the bestseller list. You just do it because you want to do it. And when it comes to your writing style, it's something that you cultivate over the years. And it's not something that you just have a click of it immediately. And sometimes people don't get their perfect writing style ever in their lives, but they keep on writing and they keep on doing what they love because they love doing it. And by doing that, it's making your writing style better. Practice makes perfect. It's cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like again, like don't write for other people, write for yourself. Because I think the most important thing is if you love it, because like when I wrote this book, House of Koi, like I've never read a book like that in my life. Because a lot of Malaysian YA in English, like romance is not haven't I mean, I'm sure there are, but I haven't read them. And so I was afraid that, no one wants to read this book, but sometimes you'll be surprised, you see, like that you will find like-minded people and I don't think there's anything to be insecure about because, people can be nice. I mean, like a Bookstagram, like I think I reached out like Adelia, we've showed each other like our drafts for our new book. And, it's a part of it is putting yourself out there, but a part of it's also just kind of knowing that you're proud of yourself because you've written this thing and just don't care about what others like the outside factors as long as you love it, as long as you put your all in this project and you love it with your whole heart, then you're good.
I love that
Any more
last.
questions? Oh, cool.
I heard that
This is
style.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
actually,
mean, yeah.
for the most part, everyone has their own writing style because your writing style is based on like all your experiences put together. Like no one is the same. No one just, starts and you're not born as a baby and like I'm gonna write like this. No one does that. No one has that. You it's all the things that you go through in life and your language. Like English, for the most part, all of us have English as a second language. So we have our own writing style. So that's why different people from different places of the world write, because we are going to write differently.
Ooh, okay. As students, how do you balance your time to write and find inspiration? Well, I think for me, it was really just being diligent and finding like the right, like falling into a routine. So actually, I was involved in like my school's like synchronized swimming team, which I was part of the Penang State synchronized swimming team. And so I went to school and I was like, I want to continue this sport. And then this sport takes up like 10 hours a week. So like, 4 hours Tuesdays, Thursdays, another 4 hours Sunday. And so I had to give that up for writing. So I think it's kind of also knowing your time and knowing how to what's important to you and how important is writing to you and keeping to a schedule. So I gave up swimming just for that year and then I went back. But it was very sad. I but it gave me a lot of time at night after school to just write and work with my editor, which I think is also important. Like have like not just having an editor, but like someone who pushes you, someone who tells you like, okay, keep going when you feel like giving up because don't like just whenever you feel that way, just remember how important this project is, like this writing is, how you really want to see where this book can go. And yeah, I think that's how I find inspiration and kept myself writing.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You need that someone to be like, you can do this. Yeah, for me it was my twin sister. She's like the half of me, like in everything, and she's always there to be like read my book and be like, oh, I don't like this part, or oh my god, this is amazing. And it's just like honest, genuine, unbridled like excitement that you kind of feel like you have to keep going, at least for me. And for me specifically, I wrote my book during secondary school. So after secondary school, for me, I kind of just go home and then do my homework. And then when it's like it was like a hobby for me and not a job. I didn't see of it as a job because I literally did not see this book going anywhere. So I just wrote it for fun, kind of like how after doing homework you would go and play video games that you love. Because for me, it was kind of like a hobby. And currently, I'm a first year student taking English literature as a degree in University Malaya, and balancing writing and my degree studies have been a bit tougher than in secondary school and in foundation, but I'm getting the hang of it. And it's all about you trying to find the time to do the things that you love and your studies. So it's kind of the same thing. You want to find a time to rest, to work, and to study. Prioritize the things that you love, because at the end of the day, life is about doing the things that you love and finding happiness. So if writing gives you all the joy in the world, go ahead and find the time to do it.
But also some pains when you're like in writer block,
True.
like writer's block.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Yeah. Another question. Do you have any advice for fan fiction writers? Most fan fiction writers do self-publishing. How much does it cost for self-publishing? I mean, the first thought in my mind is Wattpad. I mean, like Wattpad, um, I think not, there's no negative connotation, I think, with Wattpad, because Wattpad is really where I think I also started in Wattpad. It's just a place where like you want to be anonymous and you want to just like see where your writing can go, which really helped me. Like I actually wrote House of Koi on Wattpad first, and that was when like people are like, "Oh, this is so cute," and I took it down before like fully making it into a book. But I think Wattpad is maybe where you can try to start and like find book clubs. I think book clubs are really fun in Wattpad. But for self-publishing, it doesn't cost anything to upload it on Amazon. You just upload the PDF or the ebook. I think the cost part is when you need, if you need help, like if you want to hire someone to edit, or you want to hire someone to do your cover art, or like if you don't know how to use InDesign or how to make it into an ebook, then you maybe need to hire someone for that. So I think the cost for self-publishing is for like the people, the services, but not really the uploading part. But if you can do everything yourself, then there you go. You just self-published a book. Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you use Wattpad, there's actually a program for Wattpad stars, because one of my friends is like a legit writer on Wattpad and she's getting money from it. Is if you apply to the programs that Wattpad sets up, you can get promotion, marketing, just like how you would if you were traditionally published by a company other than Wattpad. And if you're a fan fiction writer, you actually, admittedly, I also wrote fanfic for a while back. I actually wrote fanfic for Divergent. I was obsessed with the book series, the movie series, everything. Although I didn't like Allegiant that much, but I did really, really uh, love that series until I wrote a fanfiction by myself. But I didn't finish it. I'm one of those Wattpad authors that suddenly disappears and suddenly they're like, "Oh my god, the author is dead." I'm so sorry, by the way. But if you're really serious into finishing a fanfiction work and getting it published, uh, there are some ways you can go about it. One, you can publish it as a fan fiction. So it will be hard to get kind of like the copyright aspects of that. I'm not very sure. So you might need to look into that. But if you're publishing it on Wattpad, then there will be no problem. But there are also certain cases where you can get your fan fiction published as not fan fiction. And there have been several times where that happened. Like the most famous ones obviously are like After series, which is actually like a Harry Potter fan fiction. Harry Potter. Oh no, Harry Styles.
Harry
Harry Styles.
Styles.
Wrong Harry. The fruity guy, not the wizard. Okay. Uh, or maybe like I don't want to put this title on, but 50 Shades of Grey was a Twilight fan fiction. So
I didn't know that.
it is. I
What?
just found out about that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's possible if you have like a work done and you want to change it into something new, something that's under your name, that is also possible. It's a bit unconventional, but it's something that you can do. And for self-publishing, if it's not hybrid publishing, kind of like what Lillian went to, I'm not sure if you had costs that were covered by the university, Lillian.
It was a part of the university, but um I mean all the pre-order, like the pre-order campaign was what paid the publisher.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
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 I'll be talking like from the point of view of a friend of mine who did 100% self-publishing on her own. It does
Okay.
take up a lot of money, which is why as a secondary school student, I didn't have any money on my own. I knew that I couldn't self-publish, so that's why I reached out to the publisher. But if you want to carry out self-publishing, you have to find money for the printing costs, the ISBN registration, especially in Malaysia. You have to get money for a cover designer, unless you can design a cover yourself, obviously, and a lot more costs that are going to take up a lot of money. But if you are really adamant into publishing a book and you really want to see it on bookshelves, then go ahead and do it. And if you can afford to, obviously, go chase your dreams.
Well, I mean for like the Amazon part, when like whenever someone orders your book, Amazon just prints it like on the go, I guess, like on by supply demand, and then they'll like ship it over. So I think Amazon's easier because you don't need like any storage. You don't need like to print and then like be ready for anyone to order. So in that way, Amazon is a cost. But I know when I came over to Malaysia and then I had to work with the printer, then yeah, that took some money. But I think it's all worth it. Because if like I had the dream to see my book one day in Kinokuniya, it happened. I had the dream I wanted to see my book on a bestseller list, it happened. And so yeah, it's never too late, and the dreams are there. You just gotta go for it. Any more questions?
Yeah, these are really interesting questions, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, where do you find a discipline or motivation to write something and not dropping it halfway? I mean, for me, like I said, I had someone who's on my back, and because I was part of this like program, I couldn't just drop out because I pitched for it. I really wanted to write a book, and this opportunity came, and I took it. And but it was hard. I think. Oh, actually, that just reminded me. So, like I said, I was in the synchronized swimming team, which we went to nationals. We traveled to compete, and I loved it. And then when I was accepted into a program, at first I said no. At first I said I can't do this. I'm too busy. Can I do this like next year? And then the head of the publisher said, um, we're not sure if this program will happen again, because that was their first year. They were a brand new like hybrid program, and then they said that you have a story to tell, so I know people want to hear it. And so I took that, and I made the decision that writing is more important to me than like swimming. And so I think that was like the discipline and motivation that I needed, that this is a dream that I truly wanted to chase. And also having people on your back helps a lot.
Yeah, I agree with all the things that Lillian said. Those are all really, really important to getting that motivation and being consistent. And I think the whole point of dropping it halfway and being like is actually or you don't know how to go forward. So maybe relating back to what we said during the slides part just now, maybe if you don't know how to continue writing the story, maybe you're a planner. Maybe you have to sit down and plan the rest of your story first before you go forward. Or maybe you're confused about the story. So what you can do is sit down and think about your story and think, is it worth going on and keeping getting your writing out there into the world? And you love this story, which is why you started it. Just remember why you started writing in the first place, and you'll find a reason to keep on going. Yeah. Another question on self-publishing is the range. Just a small disclaimer, since I'm traditionally published, I might not have the, the specific knowledge when it comes to self-publishing. So everything that I say comes from friends and experience of other writers that I've gotten throughout, conversing with them and hearing their experiences. When it comes to self-publishing, the range in Malaysia, uh, it depends on who you go to, and it depends on the quality of work that you want to receive. So for cover design, you can go to Instagram and look for artists and designers, anyone really, and ask for a commission for cover design. So that can range from literally 10 ringgit to 100 ringgit, depending on the design that you want, the artist that you want, the popularity of the artist. All these factors come into play. So it's very hard to pinpoint the price range for self-publishing. So even applies to printing, that applies to distribution. All of these things play a factor when you put in factors like who you're going to. So for example, if you want a cover design from someone famous, like a famous artist whose work has been presented in museums, for example, that is probably going to be more expensive than any other cost you're going to put into your book. So maybe it's not the most realistic option, but if you have the money and you are adamant that this is the artist that I know will like capture the essence of my book or something like that, then definitely go for it. But if you can afford it and you're looking for something affordable just to get your book out there, you can consider asking a friend or anyone in your family who's good at cover design. And when it comes to printing, some of my friends have just gone to a printing shop, like a printer, like kedai cetak, like the one that you can find in small towns even, and they can do that for you too. It might not be the most professional job, but it is the most affordable. If you want to find something more high-end, more like the kind of books that you see in bookshelves, then that would cost you probably the cheapest that I've seen is 500 ringgit maybe for several copies. I can't say specifically, but it does take a lot of money. And I can't say the specific price range, but you can try and Google different price range that are offered by different companies and then come up with your own conclusion as to what fits you and your book the best.
Yeah, I think some printers are like 10 cents per page or something like that. Yeah, so it depends. And also if you can strike a deal with them, that would be helpful. I guess also we can also mention like for traditional publishing, when you work with like NPH, for example, or really anywhere, you get 45% of the royalties. Royalties. Oh, sorry, my roommate. But should we talk about royalties, you think, Adelia, or what do you think?
Sure, since we're on the topic of cost and money, yeah. Royalties are basically the percentage of money that you get from your sales. So as a traditionally published author, I get 10% of every sales. And that seems like a very small percentage, but because a traditional publisher carries out everything else and you only have to write. So basically, I'm selling a service to this publisher. I'll write a book for you and you will do everything in your power to make the book as in the best quality that it can be, sell it, market it, get a cover designer, everything. But you can only get that if the publisher wants to publish your book. So I get 10% while they cover the cost of 90%. So it makes sense. But when it comes to a self-publisher, and maybe you have to find your own distributor, it's kind of like what Lillian said just now. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually my position. So like I said, I came from US, and then I brought my book over, work as a distributor. So I kind of work as my own publisher, I guess. So I get 45% and they get 55%. Um, so it's it's um a bit more, but I am definitely doing a lot more. Like I have to reach out to the printer, I have to work with them, I have to write invoices, send them to MPH, I have to mail it, I have to package it. So definitely a lot more work, but so far it's pretty good. Okay, a few more questions. Please tell us when it's time to stop.
Yeah, because we're
Um,
just going on and on.
Okay. How to be confident and not freak out when posting my works online, especially if it's under my name? Is it better to create an how do you say this?
Elias, right?
Alias, right? Don't know
I
why
think it's
suddenly my
like an
English is.
American British thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay, or just be brave and use your real name. I mean, like I said on like Wattpad, you can like kind of like give it a push. Like just try go under a fake name if you like. I think my Wattpad's still under a fake name, so it's just fun. I mean, there's no pressure at all to be your to reveal your identity to the world. I mean, you can start with like a fake kind of username, and then when you're more confident, when you want to be serious, or when you're ready, or you just want people to know that you want to be proud of the work that you've done, then go ahead, just change it. There's no pressure, no timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like the only
Yeah.
reason why people use Elias if they don't want people to find out that they're the writer. So if you're like in history, for example, like if people feel like they're writing something controversial or they're writing something that's not expected of them, that's why people usually use aliases. And when it comes to Wattpad, for example, maybe you're young and you feel insecure about your writing, so you don't want people to know that you write it, then you use an alias. But if you want people to know who you are, they want to know the face behind the book, then of course use your real name. I think if the only reason why you're not using your real name is because you're embarrassed of the work, that means that you just have to do a little bit more work on the book that you wrote so that you can feel proud of it and attach your name to it. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, last question. Do you know any support group for aspiring writers? Sometimes I feel overwhelmed when writing. I think I only know one, just the Facebook one, Malaysian writers, right? Are you part of that one, Adelia? Malaysian writers on Facebook, I believe. It's not really so much a support group. I mean, it's like people who will ask for advice, or people, and there's like self promotion Sundays where only on Sundays you can like talk about some book that you're writing, or like something you posted on Wattpad that they want more like votes or comments and stuff, something like that. But like the only one I know is Malaysian writers.
I'm not on Facebook anymore. I have no idea what's going on there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I see.
I see a lot of
Okay,
people laughing. Like,
Instagram's where is that?
exactly. My generation specifically, we have no idea what's going on Facebook. We just know that it's aunties and uncles doing their thing. So,
My generation.
Malaysian Writer
We're
Society
not that
is
old.
an organization that Lillian and I both did an event.
Oh yeah.
Supportive when it comes to having writers, especially young writers. They have workshops sometimes, and they have kind of events where you go and meet other writers and see what they have to say about different topics. And that's really, really good for a writer who's struggling with their first book and going like, I need someone to help me. And for the most part, we don't really have a specific like group or anything in Malaysia right now where all these writers can convene with each other, especially soon to be writers. I don't think that's technically a thing yet, but in the future, maybe Lilian and I could put up something. Who knows? But yeah, for the most part, Malaysian Writers Society is where you can go to.
I think we're done. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for listening. and our slides.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you had fun and learned something along the way.
Okay, thank you too for both of our amazing authors for the insights and for answering all kinds of curiosity in our mind right now. I believe all those information have been very helpful for the audience. So now, without further ado, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so now I would welcome Amanda, our film director for tonight, with her masterpiece called It's Easier to Raise Cattle, that has won 3 international awards. Best Film in Venice Film Festival, Italy, Best Southeast Asian Short Film in Singapore International Film Festival, Singapore, and Best International Short Film in Regensburg Short Film Week held in Germany. Don't be so humble.
That's not it. But it's okay, don't worry.
Okay, so now she will be talking about filmmaking in general from her experience, as well as elaborating on the themes from her most popular or recent films. So now, Amanda, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. And thanks so much for the previous session. That was like really informative. I know nothing about writing novels, but I know a lot about writing scripts. So I'm gonna basically kind of talk about my kind of path into becoming a filmmaker. And there is never a right or wrong pathway, but I guess like what I can share to you is what I did and what usually works for most people. So yes, so I'm Amanda Nell Yu. I am an independent filmmaker. So that means I'm not attached to any studios like Astro, for example. But I can make films for Astro if I'm making a studio-based film. But right now, I kind of do very independent work. So that means raising my own money with my own company and kind of doing it on my own, kind of like that. And it's hard because filmmaking is very, very expensive. I have also made various short films. So I haven't made a feature film yet. I'm about to shoot my first feature film. And so it's taken me, many years. I'm 35 now. So roughly you want to be making your first feature film like in your kind of 30s to mid 30s. So that this is how long making films is. And you basically spend like most of your 20s making short films. And I can talk a bit more about that later, about the importance of short films. So yeah, I've been making short films, and one day one of my short films got accepted into Venice, which is, you know, one of the top 3 festivals in the whole world. It's like, I never expected it. My dream came true. And that was when I got the confidence to actually be a filmmaker and, you know, like kind of pursue this kind of career and be a film director. But you don't need to do that. It was just I had very little confidence in myself before. But anyway, because of that, I made a couple more short films. And through that journey, I decided to kind of develop my first feature film, which is, you know, been in development for the past 2 years, and then waiting to shoot for another 2 years because of the pandemic. Yeah, so let's ignore the pandemic. Let's pretend it never happened, or it's not happening still. But yeah, hopefully I'm shooting next year. And yeah, my style of films. I would say I do a lot of horror films. I think that's kind of my vibe, is like horror, feminist films. For example, you know, It's Easier to Raise Cattle, which was the one that went to Venice. It's about 2 teenage girls. They're best friends, or they become best friends. And one of them is a Pontiana. And the other one's like, it's cool. I still love you. You're my sister. And I'm still going to be there for you. So it's fun. It's gory. And there's, you know, this kind of like edge of female stories, something that's very close to my heart. You know, like when I wrote the film, when I wrote the story, I came up with it. It was really a story for my best friend, and really the love that I have for her and the respect that we have for each other. And it was just like, what if she's a Pontianak? Like, how would I feel? Would I support her? Would I be like, yeah, let's go wild and run around at night? So that's kind of like my voice, I guess, in kind of the stories I make. Because the film I made after that, it's called Vinegar Baths, and it's about a penanggalan. So it's the hantu that floats out of her head and out of her body, and she's got like entrails dangling from her body. And I was just wondering, like, what if I was her? What would I do? Like, what would be my job? And for me, the job would be to work in a maternity ward, you know, where there's a lot of pregnant women. I'm like, yeah, there we go. That's exactly where I would work, except that she's a good person and she's actually helping a lot of women provide, you know, help with, let's say, their unwanted babies. Or so it's kind of like making a twist on horror, and I love monsters a lot, so I want to make them my heroes. For example, my feature film that I'm working on, it's called Tiger Stripes, and it's about a young girl going through puberty. And I think, you know, a lot of us here understand how horrific puberty can be, how painful it is, how painfully emotional it is, how physically stressful it is. Well, turns out that she's actually turning into a monster, and she's turning into a were-tiger. So it's even worse for her. And then through her journey, she realizes that being a were-tiger is kind of cool, and she starts to embrace her body. She starts to embrace who she is. Really, it's a message about embracing who you are, and even though all the difficulties and everything you become, this is who you are, and you should learn how to love yourself, and that will help you be a stronger person. So that's kind of my style. At least I've kind of introduced who I am. I think I have one slide. I don't have as pretty slides as Adelia and Marian, but can we bring up the slide if possible? Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's like not as fun. I should have put pictures. But anyway, yeah, that's the correct slide, by the way. So how did I become a filmmaker? I did the traditional thing of going to film school, but it actually took me a long time to get there. I've loved films since I was like, I don't know, a teenager. Like when I was the kind of weird teenager who would watch like black and white silent films when everyone else is like going to watch all the normal commercial stuff. I was looking for like weirder stuff, things I've never seen before, things that would like just surprise me in terms of storytelling. And I never thought I'd be a filmmaker because it was just like such a crazy job. It's so difficult. Like, how do you even start? And so I didn't do that, and I went to do graphic design in London, in St. Martin's. And in graphic design, all my work was just done with the camera. And I remember my lecturer was just like, there is no graphic design in this. You're literally just making films. And I was like, just let me pass. Like, let me finish this degree first, and then I'll figure out what to do. And so when I was living in London, I was friends with a lot of musicians, and I was a musician myself. And so I started making a lot of music videos for people out of like no money at all. So it was just like things that I just made up. I made stuff out of paper and clay or whatever. And I would just make music videos, and it was just some fun hobby that I had. And from there, I decided that, you know, actually I want to try and go to film school. And so I applied and did that for my master's. And the day I walked in to film school, I just knew that like this was everything that I loved to do. I mean, like my homework was to watch movies. That's like the best homework ever. But the funny thing was, I remember, okay, so I know this talk is really to inspire people to like, you know, do different things. But I remember when I went to film school, like I remember the lecturer telling me like, you have to be absolutely insane to want to work in film, or especially if you want to be a film director. And now as a film director, I can 100% attest to that. You have to be absolutely crazy to want to do this, because it is so much work. It's so tiring, and you have to be insane to actually love this job. In terms of financial gain, it's not that good. It's really the love of storytelling. It's really the love of like you know, being an artist and in this medium, and yeah, you have to be crazy. So this is really warning you guys. And I know there's like definitely a few of you out there who believe that you're crazy enough to do it. I was one of them, and you can do it too. So it's like a half inspirational, half I'm warning you guys. So anyway, so looking at this slide, this is kind of the path that I did. Now I'm really talking about independent, non-commercial work, because that's the kind of work I do. So my films are not the type that, my films won't be Marvel films. They're not like the type that, you know, are blockbuster films, where, you know, like a lot of people will go and watch. I like to do more like festival films. Of course, my aim is to have as many people to go watch my film, but I know that it's not like a Marvel film for sure, or it's not a film that I would say is like made for commercial value. Sometimes when I pitch for my projects and I ask for money, I really have to tell them like, it is not gonna make like millions like Marvel, but we want to like keep on making art out there for people to watch. So that's the category I'm in. So this is the pathway that I'm kind of telling you guys about. If you do want to go to commercial work, and I've actually had experience working in a commercial studio, it's a totally different pathway. It's more to do with working under a studio, and the studios have to approve your stories. So it kind of means that you don't have 100% creative control over your work. That's the reason why I like to do this way more, so that I have control over what I do, instead of catering to other people higher up than me paying my paycheck. So let me continue now. So when I went to film school, and I don't think anyone needs to go to film school to be a filmmaker at all. It's a place where you learn technical skills, but it's not where you learn how to do storytelling. Absolutely not at all. So if you can't afford to go to film school, or you don't want to go to film school, you can skip ahead and go and do work experience and learn the craft through working on set. 100% you can do that. You don't have to go to film school. I just did because, I don't know, like I thought it was fun, and it's nice to make friends sometimes. So after film school, I did a bunch of short films, and I did short films with film students and my friends, with very, very low budgets. And then that kind of ended, and I came back to Malaysia, and I started doing work experience, where I was working as everything, as an AD, assistant director, a writer, a research writer, and I found out that I was pretty good at writing. So that was kind of like where my work kind of filled in when I was here. And then, like I said, I didn't have that much confidence in being a director. I joined this competition just for fun, and I won it. And so I got some money, and I had to make a short film, and that was It's Easier to Raise Cattle, which went into a very major festival, and then started having a very successful career in the international festival circuit. And then through that festival circuit, I got into international labs. So that would be labs in Berlin, labs in France, like all sorts of these very famous film labs that you can research online. Oh my God, there's so much for me to talk about. I'll try to be very fast because I think I'm running out of time maybe. And in the labs, that's when I kind of learned more about the filmmaking process and developing my feature film, which is where I am at the moment. Okay, quickly, we'll go on to the other slide. If anyone has any questions, like feel free to just write it in, because filmmaking is so huge and I'm trying to simplify it in terms of how to get there. Lastly, I want to say though, the most important thing is in filmmaking, you have to know who you are. To me, it's great that you have a story, because everyone has a story and every story has been told. So your story is not going to be very interesting. My story is not very interesting. The thing that makes my story interesting is because I'm telling it. I'm the storyteller. There's no one else who's me. So that's why I write your voice, your passion, your honesty. Do not try to be anyone else. Do not try and copy anyone else's style. You will eventually find your own style when you make your short films, when you listen, read, participate. I put that in very, very importantly, is don't just watch movies, read books, go to art galleries, listen to music, participate in theater, dancing. All this helps you become who you are and, your more unique self. And that is what makes you special as a filmmaker. And that is what will, these festivals will kind of look at and see this very unique voice. I think that's the most important thing that I can say about filmmaking. There is so much to say about filmmaking. Let me quickly jump into the question first. Is the horror one mine? I guess it is. Okay. On writing horror, how do you avoid falling into cliche tropes or leaning too much into cynicism? Writing in that genre, oh yes, writing in that genre is your bucket list. You should do it. I love horror. What is beautiful about horror is because it is cliched, it is so famous with tropes, stereotypes. And for me, you have to learn all those cliches. You have to write all those cliches, all those stereotypes to know it very, very well. And then you start breaking it down. So that's when I start having twists with my horror. Like, for example, you have the Pontianak story and she's terrifying and she's beautiful. And I'm like, wait, but she's my best friend. So now I'm going to write her as if I love her and respect her, but then I still play on blood and gore, and she still does eat people. And that's playing with cliche tropes mixed with, a bit of me and my love of, someone or a story or something I'm passionate about. So don't be afraid of cliche tropes. They're best. That's what genre is. Genre gives you these tools to play with. And when you know those tools, you can start twisting them on their head. So don't be afraid of using tropes. They're great. Okay, next question. Question to Amanda. Why some movies in Malaysia are constantly perpetuating cliche tropes, and how can new ideas stand out? So that's exactly what I'm trying to say about the slide when I'm saying, who are you? That's when things start standing out. Like, for example, I gave you my Pontianak story, that we've seen 1,001 Pontianak stories. It's just that no one's seen me looking at her as my best friend. And that is when you start breaking into new ideas. That's when you put yourself in that story. I always believe that you have to put yourself, your emotion. When I write my scripts, just like Adelia and Lillian, I get very emotional when I write as well, because I feel for my characters, because part of the characters have a bit of me in it. And I think that's when you start standing out, when you stop pretending to be a horror film, when you stop pretending to think what a film is like, and you start doing a film that comes really from who you are. So yeah, kind of similar vibes to the authors before. Right, next one. I love watching films that are not necessarily commercial. I would love to try writing for films. What is your advice to jumpstart? Just do it. I think start with writing short films, maybe. So short films are roughly about 10 minutes, very simple with film writing, 1 minute a page. So if your film is 10 minutes, you have 10 pages. If like my film is like 95 minutes, I have 95 pages. It can be quite systematic. There are many websites to teach you how to lay out a screenplay. There's also free software out there that already has a screenplay software where you can have like dialogue and descriptions. I think how you can start is actually to read some screenplays. There's a lot of free ones on, I think it's called IMSDB. It's not IMDb, it's like IMSDB. And it's got all the free scripts and from all the movies that you love. You can just search it and then get used to the idea of how a film script is written. It's kind of similar in terms of prose. Like before, Lillian and Adelia were saying there's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. It's exactly the same thing. We also do Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. And short films are a bit more freer. I want to tell everyone who tries to write a short film to not do Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, to not tell a story. Don't give me a beginning, a middle, and end. Give me an emotion, or give me a color, or give me just one action and make it 10 minutes long. Like this short films is like your way to really play and experiment and find your voice and find your style. And short films are cheaper, they're a lot easier to do. So be crazier, don't make stories. In fact, the most successful short films are the ones without stories. They just tell like, you know, a deep emotion, or my favorite short films are, I don't know what the hell I'm watching, but I feel something so strong about it. Like I feel immense sadness, or I feel there's a problem happening in this place that they're trying to tell me about. I may not know what the story is, but you know, I felt something really strong and it was beautiful. With that, you will start to slowly find out who your voice is, what your voice is, and start to become very special as a filmmaker. Am I running out of time? I think I had like 15 minutes, but I went over. So, is there any other questions? Oh yeah, do independent filmmakers make good money? We side hustle. So for me, I'm an independent filmmaker, but I also teach as a lecturer film. I also write for other people. So I write commercial scripts for series. So I really think independent filmmakers, we have like 3 jobs on the go. Our own independent projects are kind of, you know, our passion. My friend always likes to joke that it's his hobby, even though he's like a brilliant filmmaker who's like traveled in many festivals. But it is true, because we're independent, we raise our own money, and so in terms of payment, you know, you have to be very strict with yourself. Like, for example, if your film budget is a certain amount, make sure that you get paid as well. Like, don't be silly like me. Like when I first started, I was like, oh no, like I'd rather put my money in my film. But I have to remind myself that this is my job. This is so much work that I put into it. I have to pay myself as well. So in terms of that, you know, you know what's fair for yourself, and you know how much money you want put in your films. I mean, I'm still going through that with my producer. She's trying to look after me getting a paycheck, but I'm like, I want to have this for my film. Just take it out of my paycheck. She's like, no, you can't do that. Like, you just have to be, you know, figure out how to work it without having this amount of budget. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's good money. I'd say it's a passion. Okay, let's say we want to create a film based on controversial topics like rape culture. How do we prepare ourselves when facing criticism? I think that you should talk about any topic that you're passionate about. I think that is the reason why we have, you know, storytelling. That's the reason why we have writing, filmmaking, music. And so never be afraid of that. But in terms of facing criticism, I mean, if you're talking about something so strong, of course you're going to face criticism, because then it's not controversial. I think you just have to stand by, you know, what you want to talk about. You're always going to get support from the other side. There's always going to be critics, and there's always going to be people who support you. And I think for me, it's important to voice out, you know, what your views are, just to have like, you know, a very healthy relationship of conversation of something, you know, for example, like rape culture. We need to keep talking about it. We need to kind of improve as a society on certain topics, and don't be afraid about it. You will face criticism, but as long as you stand true to what you say, and you have to be kind of strong about that. You know, you're gonna get like haters online, and the minute you put films out, you're gonna get that. And you know, it's nice, kind of like, oh, thanks for actually paying attention to what I have to say. And you know, people will start thinking about what you have to say as well. So yeah, I would be like, be strong, face it. How much patience is required in this field? A bit. I think you don't need that much patience. I think most filmmakers are very impatient. A lot of us, you know, have something like that we're passionate about, and we're like, oh my God, let's do it now. I have so much to say. And this is why I find short films so powerful. And, you know, anyone who wants to start making films, please make short films. Like, make as many as you can, as many as you want. Use your mobile phone to make it, borrow cameras. You can be very, very impatient. Short films are like a very quick kind of turnaround in terms of, you know, from start to finish. Feature films, however, requires a bit of patience, especially if you're doing independent feature films where you're raising your own money. It takes, you know, about 1 to 2 years to raise money independently for a feature film. If you pitch to a studio, like for example Astro, you can get it quite quickly. If they approve it, the money is there because they can fund your whole thing, and so that's a lot easier. But for me, yeah, I had to wait like maybe 1.5 years to kind of have most of my film funded. I mean, we're not fully funded yet, but we're almost there, so we can start shooting. So that's a big learning curve for me, is to wait, and then waiting for COVID and lockdowns to finish. That was a lot of patience. I was like crying to my producer. I was like, I want to shoot my film. But yeah, I think it's like definitely go on and keep making short films if you're impatient, and wait for your feature films. If we want to start making short films, are platforms like TikTok and Instagram a good idea? Oh, this is very, very important. Oh my God. I'm in the generation of Facebook, Adelia. I'm the auntie. But I do have Instagram, and I did start TikTok. I actually am going to say no to TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. The thing with short films is you can keep play on TikTok, play on Instagram, play on YouTube. Now, when you think you have made a very good short film, one that you're very, very proud of, and one that you want to travel in film festivals, you do not release it at all. Don't release it online. The minute you put it online, it becomes worthless. So you keep it. With short films, like for example, like if you want to go to Cannes Film Festival, they won't take your short film if it's been released somewhere else. They want to have like premiere status. They want to be the ones who discovered you. They want to be like, I found it, no one else found it. This is how great we are as a film festival. That's the mentality. So when you make a short film that you're very, very proud of, and you put a lot of effort into it, and you do want to travel with it, be very protective of it. It's like, how to say, it's like, be protective. Like you don't want to, and I'm gonna joke about this. So it's like, be protective because you don't want to lose your virginity with the short film. Keep it and use it for something very good that will help your career. So yeah, TikTok, Instagram, great to play, but when it's worth something, and short films can be worth something, like for example, my short film changed my entire career, keep it and start submitting to festivals, and wait and be very, very patient with that. How do you keep the storyline consistent, like commercial movie, within a short time? Wait, let me try and understand this. How do you keep the storyline consistent? I don't understand this question. I'm so sorry. Can you explain it again? Or can someone explain it to me?
It's like the commercial movie has like beginning, middle, and the ending.
Yeah.
But some short story, you don't see the beginning, ending, the middle. They just like one action, and just it's kind of hard to like keep up with story because it's so short.
Mm. Okay, yeah, understand. You don't have time to have beginning, middle, and end in short film, actually. I have been a judge and jury for many short film competition, and I actually don't like the films that have beginning, middle, and end. So I like that it's a short thing. How to keep it consistent? Well, you have 10 minutes. It's very short time anyway, so play with it. Play with your emotion. For example, maybe you want to make a film about sadness. Think about all the things that make you sad. Maybe you can be as creative as you want. Maybe it's just loads of pictures of what make you sad, or maybe it's one scene that made you very sad, and then you build around that scene. So with filmmaking, it's so creative that now you don't even need actors to make films. A lot of brilliant short films have come out during the lockdown time, during the pandemic, and people were making films in their bedroom with their video camera just like this. People were making films, collecting images from YouTube, from TikTok. So you can be creative. In fact, I want to challenge you guys to not make beginning, middle, and end for a short film. Try. try not to have beginning, middle, and end. Try not to even have like, you know, a story that starts and ends. Just go in the middle, or maybe you write the start and ending and then throw it all away and just pick one part of your film or one part of your story. I think that's a fun challenge for everyone, and see if you like it or not. Yeah. How do we, the general public, show our appreciation to Malaysian indie films? Very important question. Go and watch us in the cinema. We really do need that support, because unfortunately there's this stigma where people are like, I don't want to watch local film not good. And you'll be surprised that there are some very brilliant independent local films that don't get to be in the cinema for that long, because we have this rule where like if you don't fill up a certain amount of numbers in the cinema, you get pulled out, which is very unfair. So technically we're supposed to be there for 2 weeks, but if we don't make the first week, we're out of the cinemas for the same week. So buy tickets, don't download and torrent films. I know that, like, you know, a lot of people like to torrent films, but when you have a local Malaysian filmmaker that is out in the cinema and you see it, you know, on your TikTok, on your Instagram being advertised, do try and buy a ticket. Do get your friends to watch it, and just, you know, try and support your local filmmakers. There's not a lot of us, so yeah, that's how you can help to show appreciation actually. How long does it take to produce one film? A short film can be 1 week to 3 months, depending on, you know, how fast you are. Again, like I say, short film is such a free and easy medium. With feature film, so when you have fully funded or almost funded your feature film, I'd say it's safe to say when you're 70% funded, you can start shooting, because the 30% can be raised later on. So once it's funded, you start pre-production, and that would usually take about 3 months to prep, 3 to 4 months. And then shooting would take about 1 to 1.5 months. So how long is that already? Is that like 5 months, 5 to 6 months until you wrap shoot? And then post-production would probably be another 6 months to a year if you have VFX. So it would take about 1.5 years to actually complete the film. I'm not even talking about writing. Writing takes a long time. It took me about 1 year to write my feature screenplay. So yeah, like 2.5 years, 2.5 to 3 years to make one film. Especially if you're independent, it'll take 5 years. That's why when you see in the news, like, oh, this star is really gonna be in this movie, and then you only see the movie come out like 3 years later. So it's because it takes a long time. It's a big project involving a lot of money, but that money also cultivates a lot of jobs for people. Like, there's so many people involved. That's why I love filmmaking, is because it's like one big family, and I get to meet so many people from all over the world, and it's insane the amount of people working on one film. So yeah, that's how long it takes. Not sure if this is a controversial. If it is, I'm truly sorry, but I'd like to know what Amanda has to say about local filmmakers who have their films banned and censored, and an effect to that can lead to brain drain. I know some directors who thrive overseas because they don't get the chance here. Oh, absolutely. That's not controversial at all. Unfortunately, with films, or actually in any artwork, you know, we do have to deal with censorship. For me, I am a filmmaker and I am not working on the censorship board, so I cannot tell what they're going to censor. So I would give advice to just do what you want to do. Talk about what you want to do. Don't be afraid of censorship, because it's not your job to censor. It's not your job to self-censor. You're the artist. We have a censorship board and they are doing their job, and they can decide to ban or censor. It's not up to me, so I can't talk about what their job is. If it is censored, it is, you know, a shame. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about it. I guess then you can torrent it. But in terms, it can lead to brain drain. I mean, there's ways to watch films overseas. There's ways to find films. You know, just always keep in touch with what the local filmmakers are doing, what we're talking about. There might be like secret screening sometimes. I don't know. But yeah, I know censorship is a big problem for artists. That's just what we have to live with. But keep doing it. I think the more we keep doing it, the more they have to censor, and then the more they get tired of censoring. Let's do that.
I know there's a I'm not sure if it's a secret screening, but it's called Freedom Film Festival. I think it's still going on. It's still going on, I think.
Yeah.
So they're screening local independent films.
Yes, actually, I think Freedom Film Festival is doing something where they're screening films that were censored before. I don't know if it's secret. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those guys are very like punk rock, so I don't know how they do it. But this is what I mean. Like, always keep in touch with all the film groups, in whether it's in Facebook or Instagram. Yeah, just there's always stuff going on, and that's how you can, have access to all these different types of films, and not your typical commercial stuff that you always find in the cinema.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Would it be a good strategy if we were to upload some of our works on social media to gain recognition, to get recognized, and then for our masterpieces, then we would submit them to film festivals and protect them?
Yes, you can do that. The only problem with social media is that no one watches films on social media. That's like the annoying thing I've noticed. Unless you can get people to watch it, or unless you have like, something that's super viral. But again, how do you know it's viral unless it's viral already? So I'm really weird with social media. But then, you guys are a totally new generation, so I can't speak for that, because I lecture and I teach students, and I know that you guys are you take in content and media very, very differently to how I do. But I just do warn about social media is that your film becomes worthless to festivals once it's been on social media. So in terms of gaining recognition, with film, or at least in the international circuit, you don't need to have a name. You just need to have a good film. So it doesn't matter about being famous or how many followers you are. No one cares about that. It's just they really care about your work, and they actually care about who you are. They always want to know your story. They always want to see your personality. So when you submit for film festivals, they will always have like a little director's biography that you can fill in. There's also a little bit called the director's statement, and that's the most important thing to write, because it's your statement on, like, for example, why you want to make this film, or what you're so passionate about this specific piece of work. And that little paragraph is going to tell them who you are, and who you are as a person, who you are as an artist. And that's how you start gaining recognition. If you get into a few good festivals, festival programmers will start following your name. They will start keeping an eye out for you. Like for me, when I was doing my feature film, people were already like following my career path, and I never did anything on social media. I think in the film world, it's they don't really they kind of don't really care about like the social media name. They care about the work way more. So just keep practicing. For me, practice. Even if your film is terrible, I think you should just send it to festivals. There are a lot of free ones, especially local ones. You can send it to Sea Shorts Film Festival. I really love that film festival. It's awesome, and do try to attend it. Do the local film festivals or the regional ones, like for example Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia. There's some great film festivals there, and they're free to submit. Just submit them, even if you don't think it's that good. Just always submit. Get into submitting, and also get used to rejection. Like I got rejected for many years, so then you'll get used to getting rejected for the rest of your life, which is a huge thing to get used to as an artist.
If your work gets funded by a production company, then how much freedom you get? Because I know some filmmakers that they get their rights to their work bought. the production company bought their copyright, so they don't have the freedom.
Yeah, that's why I don't really want to work with studios and production companies, because at the end of the day, like the pro is that they will fully fund your film, and so your film's going to get made. But then there are certain things that they want, of course. Money's not that easy to find, so they will want, sometimes they'll want your rights. You can get a lawyer, which costs money, to talk about your contract and make deals with them. So it's all down to like contract and legal aspects of it. It's kind of complicated with production houses, because they are, the bigger guy. They're the ones with the money, so they kind of have a lot more say. That's why I tend to do the more difficult route, which is independent filmmaking, where the money is ours, and I have total creative control, and I own the rights to my film. So, for example, if my film does do really well commercially, and let's say Hollywood wants to do a remake of it, I get all the profits. I get all the benefits of it. I get to even say like, oh, well, maybe I want to direct it in Hollywood. I can do all that. But if I sold my rights to a production company, that's it. I don't have anything. It's theirs now, and it's up to them whether they want to do it or not. So it's that's what you have to weigh out. Do you want to have easy money, or do you want to suffer and be independent and hustle, like work nights and mornings or whatever? So
What would be your advice, since some filmmakers, they prefer to work independently because they want to have full creative control? What would be your advice? Because we don't get enough funds, and sometimes crowdfunding also is not sufficient to help. How do you strive for that perfection, that satisfaction that you aim for your work?
Wait, are you talking about like how to raise funds, or
just your work? Because we sometimes we don't have the money.
Oh, okay, understand. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's where your creativity and talent come in.
Okay.
So as a filmmaker, of course, you're like, I want everything. I want everything to be perfect. That is never, ever going to happen. Actually, even when you have a lot of money, you want more. So you have to be very creative. First of all, you have to be realistic, though, about the type of film you want to make. If you're going to make a sci-fi film with VFX and spaceships everywhere, yeah, that's going to cost a lot of money. So you need to start thinking about how you can raise that much amount. Or you can write, if you're just starting out, write something, with a simple location, whether it's the house. Maybe you want to work with non-actors. Maybe you have friends who are actors. So be more creative in that terms of storytelling, and try to have a limitation. In fact, my favorite films are films that don't have too much money. That's why I don't like all this blockbuster films, because they have so much money that it's not creative. I don't see any kind of magic behind it. But the films that don't have enough money, and they're low budget and they're indie, sometimes can be so beautiful because the artist was pushing themselves. So I think in terms of that, just be as creative as you can be. I mean, you can be crazy. I mean, I've seen films that are just shot in like just one square block, and those are sci-fi films, and they're just super creative. Like there's a film called The Cube, I think. It's just like they literally have like one room, and it's like a super crazy sci-fi film with brilliant writing. So yeah, use your talent, use your creativity. I think there are other questions. I don't know if we have time though. How do you do everything from scratch when you made your film? I work in a team. Filmmaking is all about making friends. Like really, you value friendship. I love making friends, and a team is very, very helpful. You can't do everything yourself. I have seen people try to do everything themselves, but it's so hard. I need a team. I'm very lazy. So yeah, I think then there's a question for Adelia or Lillian. So I will leave it to them.
Ooh, I think this question was asked before, but we focused more on the choosing on whether to use an alias or like a real name, and not focusing on the not working out thing. Probably the worst person to ask, because I did freak out when my first book was being released. I freaked out a lot. I was like, oh my god, what if this happens or that happens or this happens? And that's normal, super normal for you to be like, oh my god, I'm bringing my book maybe out into the world, and you're scared of what's gonna happen. You're scared that some bad reviews are gonna make people say bad things about your book, and or maybe no one's gonna buy it, and all these things are gonna come, all these thoughts are gonna be very prevalent in your head, because you spent so much time on a book. I spent around 3 years trying to perfect the book that's published today, and those 3 years are going to be out in the world just for anyone to say anything about it. And anyone can just be like, I hate this book. And it's their right to do so because they didn't buy the book. And you have to find a way to kind of separate yourself from the book that you wrote. Even though you're proud of it, and it's, of course, part of your identity, and a lot of yourself is poured into that book. But when it comes to criticism, when it comes to people saying negative things about your book, you have to find a way to take that constructive criticism, or maybe if it's not constructive, find a way to decide for yourself if that comment or that review is speaking from a place that wants you to improve or not. If it is constructive, if it is, something that can help you for your future writing, take a note of it. Write it down, learn from it, and be like, okay, maybe I want to do something different for my next book or something like that. But if it's something that is unrelated to your book, something just negative for no reason, don't pay any attention to it. Remember that your book, your art, whatever you create is something that you should be proud of. Do your best. And if it turns out that some people don't like what you put out, they just don't like it. And that the audience's right to critique it and give their opinion on whatever you do. And it's your decision whether you take it to heart or you use it to become better at your craft. Yeah. It's all about perspective. But the freaking out is normal. The freaking out is gonna come. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Amanda, I just visited your Instagram. I listened to Tarot.
That's funny. That's what happened.
I listened to Tarot. There. Oh, okay. I'm done fangirling.
Look, wait to DM me.
Excuse me. I have questions for Adelia and Lillian and Amanda. I think, like, how do you guys stay motivated when you guys experience setbacks? Especially, like, let's say you're on a journey of finishing a book or finishing a film, and then there are things that don't go your way. For example, a budget cut, or like the actress suddenly didn't show up, or like when you write the book, the file suddenly corrupted. So how do you guys stay motivated about that? Yeah.
I'll start first. Well, when you work in filmmaking, everything goes wrong. So you get kind of used to it. The essence of filmmaking is you plan. And then your first day of shoot, you're prepared that everything you planned is going to be thrown out the window. And so as a filmmaker, we are always like on our toes. We're always very like organic, like things happen all the time. Like, oh my god, like I've been on sets where like houses burned down, actors broke their legs, and you just have to be more creative. You just have to be like, okay, like I still need to finish my film, because you love your work, and like I said, you have to be crazy to want to do this job. But when you go into filmmaking and when you start working on sets, you'll see that everything goes wrong. Every minute there's a setback. Nothing is ever going to go your way, and that is actually the essence and the fun of making. See, I said you had to be crazy. So for me, that is actually my job, is to deal with setbacks all the time.
Wow, I wish I was more resilient. Like, I don't know what I would do if like an actor broke their leg. I would freak out. I mean, staying motivated. Yeah, I think it's just really also just trying to, you want to keep on working towards your dream, knowing that this work is important to you. That, I think also just knowing, like, I think for me, just not like trying to push yourself so much. Also try not to compare yourself to other people, like knowing that you're on like your own path, your own like, timeline, that you'll get, you know, where you are, where you're supposed to be eventually. So don't need to like, you know, rush it, or like if something goes wrong, maybe something better will come out of it. You know, like maybe you have to become more creative, and then that will like lead you to some whole other plot, or some you know, or you meet someone else, or like you know, like you meet someone who inspires you, and then you work with them to make something better. So I think trying to take obstacles as if to make it better, and just to keep going. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with both Amanda and Lillian. Like everything they said, 1000% agree with. Especially when it comes to being crazy, definitely agree with that. You need to be a little crazy to write a book and get a movie out there. But for the most part, a setback is, you know, in everything you do, there are going to be setbacks. So when it comes to doing something that you love, it shouldn't be that big of an obstacle, but just another stepping stone. Yeah. And actually, when I was writing my first book, the biggest setback was one, I was 15 and kind of stupid. So don't judge me when I say that I didn't save my manuscript anywhere except for one place, which was in my laptop, which is one file. I didn't send it anywhere, didn't save it anywhere. So when my laptop was rebooted, because it was like an old laptop, and we were trying to get the laptop to a new software or something like that, my dad accidentally deleted all the files in my laptop. So I lost, I think, around 10,000 words of writing.
I think there's one more question for Adelia. But the next one is: should writers work more than grammar when writing, or focus on expanding the plot and storytelling? I definitely plot and storytelling, I think, because grammar is kind of like a second draft thing, or like if you like you need a second pair of eyes, because when you're working on the draft for so long, you're just like you'll miss some things for sure, because you're so tired of looking at your own work, and you just don't want to look at it anymore. You need to like take a step back. That's when you need like an editor or someone who can just read through and check it for you. Well, Adelia, welcome back. You can there's a question for you that you should answer.
Hi, sorry, I think I was disconnected. My chat function is gone, so if someone could refresh me on the last
Yeah,
question. Sorry about that.
but there's a question just for you, but it says, how do you balance your creative freedom and the editor's changes to your work?
Okay. So since I'm traditionally published, kind of like actually relating to what Amanda said about when you sell your writing to like a big company or like a film company, they will give you comments, or they'll tell you something about like, we want this plot to be a little different, or maybe this subplot should be removed, something like that. And that was something that I had to do because I was signed to a traditional publisher, and I had an editor who told me things about grammar, about sentence structure that she thought that I had to fix. And for the most part, I was 15 and my grammar was not the most, it's not exactly a linguist, you know, a lot of people would say that, it's a 15-year-old's writing. So maybe some grammar, some typos and spellings would have to be fixed by a professional editor. And that is good. And that's something that you want for your book. And when it comes to the plot, when you're selling something to someone and they're buying it and they're using money to for the different costs for the book, they have a right to say, I want this to be changed, something like that. Or the cover maybe. And the thing is, my publisher actually gave me a lot of creative freedom to kind of give suggestions for the cover, give suggestions for different things, aspects of the books. And the writing itself, I didn't actually have a lot of changes, but there was some changes that weren't that big and that I was personally okay with. I actually have a writing mentor or buddy who helps me kind of look at my writing and I look at her writing. And Lillian is one of those writer buddies actually. Sometimes we look at each other's work. And that's how you have an editor who doesn't, give too much of a hassle telling you that they should have a lot of things changed because you're already going through so many people and asking them for their opinions. And other than editors, you have beta readers, you have proofreaders. There are a lot of people that you can give your manuscript to and make sure that it's in the best condition that it can be. So personally, this may not apply to everyone. As I said before, my twin sister is my number one supporter. So before anyone else, she has to be the first person who reads anything I write because she is my number one critic and number one fan. So it helps a lot when to have someone who is going to tell the truth and be honest with you. And that's my twin sister. So she'll tell me everything before I give it to a professional editor who might not look at it in a way that's genuine and more as in like what's commercial, what can sell well. So you, as I said before, you have to find a way to separate yourself from your book. Yes, it's your baby, your work of art, but the editors are not your enemy. The editors want the best for your book and for you. So listen to them. And if you disagree with them, don't just be like, the peribahasa kerbau dicucuk hidung and be like, yeah, you're correct. Everything has to follow your way. I'm wrong. Don't do that. This is your baby. This is your book. Follow your heart and be adamant and say, I want this in my book for this reason. And talk about it and you'll find a compromise that works for the both of you. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
I have another question. For anyone can answer. It's either Amanda, Lillian, or Delia. But my question is: before you guys start write your storytelling, do you guys like do your research? And does this research takes like years? Because sometimes I heard like some fictional novels requires many years of research, and then they get their magnum opus or something like that. So yeah.
I mean, for
Okay,
me,
I'll start. Oh, wait. Go.
no, honestly, I was just gonna say I have nothing. I was just gonna say I don't research because fiction. I mean, like YA fiction is just your own life. Kind of like you're just inspired by your own life, and you just make it fun. Add some romance, add some drama. But that's all I'm gonna say. Please go, Amanda.
It depends what you want to tell. That's the thing. I mean, I would always suggest to start small. Like, for example, talk about your experiences. That doesn't need that much research. I mean, research yourself, research your memories. But again, if you want to do a historical epic, yes, you need to do your research. You need to know all the things that actually happened, all the facts, all the down to the detail of the set, of the costume and all that. That is a lot of research. So again, it really depends on what the story is. That's why some people take years and years, because they want to get the research right and they don't want to be like making things up. So yeah, it depends on the story.
Yeah, same here. I totally agree. It really depends on the story. If you're going to write a romance, for example, you're probably writing from a lot of your experiences, kind of like what Lillian said just now, like a young adult story, right? For me, I wrote a sci-fi novel. So there had to be some research into making the sci-fi element more realistic. So I had to look up some things about injection, some things about like dreams, because my novel was very central around the idea of dreams. Maybe I'll go into a bit of why I wrote my book in the first place. I was having very weird nightmares that were troubling me. So as a way to cope with that, I wrote my book. And there were some things about dream theory that I found interesting that helped me with my writing. And I also have characters who are not Malay, who are not Malaysian. So, I have characters who are American, who one is from Thailand. So there are certain cultural aspects that I personally do not relate to. And I personally really love when books and movies include diversity and a lot of representation. So as a way to do that accurately, I did a lot of research when it came to the cultural aspects of these and geography. When you are writing in the perspective of someone you don't necessarily relate with, you have to look up what it would partake for someone to be seen as Thai or Japanese or American, these different aspects. And then the best thing you can do is go ahead and give your manuscript to people who can relate with these characters and get feedback on whether or not you wrote them accurately. And whatever comments they give back, these usually beta readers or sensitivity readers can tell you maybe this is offensive or maybe this doesn't really relate to me, and then you can get those back and then find a way to make your book relatable to these people who resonate and kind of want that representation. So that is definitely where I think research matters the most, making a story realistic and making sure you write a story that is true to the people you are writing about. Yeah.
Okay, I think there's one more question. But Adelia, do you have any future plans for your next novel?
Ooh, okay. So my first book was published by White Coat Publishing, a local publisher, and they don't necessarily. They started as like a medical book company and then started venturing into fiction. So and one of the first books in fiction that they published was my book because they were taking a chance, a huge chance, on publishing some random kid from Perak who was like 17 years old and knew nothing about publishing at all. And they were just like, oh my God, we love your story. We're going to take it. I was not expecting that. No one was expecting that. A lot of people were genuinely surprised that it actually got published. Number one, me. But now that I do have this platform, I do want to use it to kind of give a spotlight on the stories that I love the most, which are sci-fi and fantasy stories, and especially Malaysian folklore. So my second book is actually going to be kind of like a twist on Malaysian folklore, getting stories like Bawang Putih, Bawang Merah, Tanggang, Nenek Kebayan, all those stories mixed together into an epic fantasy, a young adult epic fantasy, kind of like Throne of Glass or uh, suddenly all the young adult fantasy novels have escaped my brain. Kind of like Throne of Glass, Akatar, stories like that, in a way that is authentic to Malaysia. So yeah, really excited to get that done.
I guess for I don't know. I mean, so because mine was like the publishing program, I don't plan to go back to them. I hope to go more into traditional publishing. So I've still been like querying, more like US side, just to just see since I'm here, just because the US publishing is you to query an agent and then the agent will like pitch to the publishing houses and then da, da, da. So we'll see. But it's so weird. But when Amanda was talking about your work, it was very similar to my next book. It's right. Adelia probably knows. It's like a fantasy with like princesses and curses, and this is very very similar. Oh, okay, 1 minute left. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna message Amanda later. We're gonna talk about it. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, last question for everyone. What is Amanda's movie recommendation? And then what are Adelia and I's book recommendation?
Oh my God, movie recommendations. I don't know. Try to watch films that are not in the cinema or Netflix. You can torrent those, I guess. Whatever. Go to festivals. Look at what's in the festivals right now. Look at what is in the festivals before. I would say go and watch more festival films, watch more films that are not in your language, so not in English, not in Malay, not in like whatever language you're used to. Watch something in Polish. That's what my recommendation is. Just widen your vocabulary in film watching.
Book recommendation. Do you have any, Adelia?
I always say it's like you're asking a mother to like choose between her children. There's so many books that I can list out to you and be like, yeah, you have to read this. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But I can just name one. However, I just like Amanda, I want to echo that and say, please do support your local authors because the local book industry can only survive with you because we don't have necessarily that link to the international book industry uh, compared to other countries. Like Malaysia's book industry is very closed in, and sometimes some books do reach international audiences, but for the most part, local book the local book industry is very Malaysian centric. So we need Malaysians like you to go to the bookstore and read and buy Malaysian authors and Malaysian books. So yeah, I would definitely say that. Some recommendations that I can give are books by my friends and books by the authors that I look up to. From Fixie, you have read up on Gina Yap Layong. I love her books. And then you have poetry by Kamalia Hasni. You have under the same publishing company, Inkling by Nurfatin Afrina, a close friend of mine. And all these books you can get from MPH, you can get from Kinokuniya, some of them. Really, all around you, there are a lot of local books that sometimes people have this idea that local books are only closed off to a certain genre, and stereotypically that's Malay romance. But really, if you look hard enough, there are a lot of genres that are different and unique, and some kind of books that you've never read before that are local, and it would really mean a lot if you gave your support. Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you very much to all our speakers. And yeah, just like what basically all of them have said, let us, as the audience or the readers, try to show our support in any way that we can to our local artists. And with that, on behalf of ELITS, once again, thank you very much to all our speakers, Lillian Lee, Edwina Hali, and Amanda Nell Yu. And of course, to all participants tonight, thank you very much for joining us amidst the busy weekend. And don't forget to click the link in the chat box and give your feedback on this event. And also, before we finish our event, we would like to have a photography session with our authors and filmmaker. So if it is possible, I would like to ask you to open your camera and do a little bit pose for our photography session. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute to get ready.
Oh my god, guys, I'm in my pajamas.
It's okay, Haifa, as long as you're comfortable. Okay, now I'm assuming that everyone is ready. So, perfect team, please get ready. And so now we're going to take the photography. In 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, last one. 1, 2, 3, freestyle. Okay, with that, our program has ended and hope to see you again on our next program. Till then, assalamualaikum and have a good night, everyone. Goodbye and thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, I had so much fun. I had so much fun. I
I'm
was
so
in.
glad.
I was actually near the. I was like at the food truck trying to have my meal. I was like open the YouTube live stream while eating tacos.
Oh,
It's
so nice.
crazy. Yeah, and
I'm so hungry now. You said that.
yeah, I'm so
Was-
happy. I'm so happy. I'm really grateful for you guys coming. It's like okay, like I'm so happy. I don't know. I don't know how to describe my happiness right now. I'm just like so happy, and like I thank you guys so much. And we're very sorry if there's a little bit of setbacks and the last minute emails and stuff. So yeah, and thanks so much. I really hope we have another food for thoughts. Yeah. 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 Can
I think we're both active on like Instagram, right?
We're pretty active, honestly.
Wait, since Adelia doesn't have the chat, I'll put her.
yeah, Instagram is the common one. I don't have Facebook. I deleted my Facebook account. So yeah. Oh,
I think I just have Facebook to keep connected with like my like older family members. That's it.
we